Hi, hello, and how are you? That Rockwell timepiece says it's time, so come on in and stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm proud to be a continued brand ambassador for the Rockwell brand. So if you go to rockwelltime.com, ROCKWELLTIME.com. Use the code Coach20 to receive 20% off of any of that merchandise. Like and follow the Coach Scott Field Show on our Facebook page. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. If you're watching us on DBTV, we sure appreciate you. I know we have over 300,000 followers daily who view our show, and we have the opportunity to be seen in over 300 million homes around the globe. We can also be seen on CSTV on Wednesday evenings, and we're also on the Rewind Sports 60. I appreciate your continued support. You are not here to listen to me today. You are here for four-time NBA All-Star Otis Birdsong. Otis, thank you so much for your time and really thrilled to have you be on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Scott. Look forward
Yeah,
to it.
yes, I really looking forward to this. Many trips. I'm from Indiana, and you are a Florida Sports Hall of Famer. I'm getting inducted into the Indiana Sports Hall of Fame in August. But many trips, I would go down through Winter Park, Florida, on my way to Lake Placid to do some bass fishing with my
Congratulations.
grandfather. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm from Winter Haven, but
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time in Winter Park, and it's a beautiful area. So, yeah.
I think about I think about you winning a state championship in 1973. What memories do you take with you? Because, I mean, you've had an amazing career, four-time NBA All-Star, but to win that state championship for your home community, what did that mean to Otis Birdsong?
Well, first of all, it's ironic, Scott, that you would actually mention that because I was actually home in March at the state tournament. My old high school was in the state finals. They had a great team. It's been 50 years. It's the anniversary of us winning the state championship 50 years ago, this past March. So
Wow.
I was there. Uh, they were actually playing against Carlos Boozer's two sons, who
Okay.
go to school down in Miami. And they were heavily favored. Carlos Boozer's sons, the kids from Miami, they were heavily favored. And Winter Haven actually had a 3-point lead with a minute and 20 seconds left and the ball and lost the game. They
Oh,
didn't need a shot. They inbound the ball and take a quick three. The team from Miami ties it up. Winter Haven comes down and turns it over. And now they go down by two. And then they miss a shot at the buzzer.
oh, heart.
Devastating. They had a 3-point lead and the ball with a minute and 20. But it's
Oh,
funny because with all of the many so-called accolades that I've received, when I go back home to Winter Haven, I'm often reminded more of the state championship than I am of making the All-Star team or College Hall of Fame or any of those things. They talk about when we won the state championship, and I cherish that memory as much or more than any other accomplishment that I've ever achieved in basketball. It's just a phenomenal thing. I can't even imagine how it would feel to win an NBA championship because that high school championship, the memory is just so indelible in my mind, and I'm just to this day proud of that accomplishment.
Otis, I hear you in that story. I mean, your passion for the game is still inside you, your knowledge of the game, just the experiences that you've had, the relationships that you have formed. But where does that 50 years go? It seems like a blink of an eye and it's 50 years, right?
Man, it's almost unimaginable to think that it's been 50 years since I've been out of high school. In fact, I was in Houston for the Final Four, and my roommate from college, he's an Italian guy. He lives in Allen Park, Michigan, and we were hanging out at the Final Four, playing some golf. And it's been 50 years also since we were freshmen at the University of Houston. And I can tell you, man, that went by really, really fast.
Wow, I love that. I've seen some great footage of some of your conversations and some of the accolades that you have won, while doing my research. And I'm just a huge fan of the history of the game. And I also think back, winning a state championship at that level is phenomenal. And yet coming so close for playing for Coach Guy Lewis at Houston against St Bonaventures. I heard you once say that that's one of the things that haunts you the most throughout your playing career, that you couldn't quite, beat St Bonaventures in that NIT final, at Madison Square Garden. How Think about those memories and take me through what it feels like to come so close to have that success.
Well, back then, the NIT was as big and popular as the NCAA tournament, because if I'm not mistaken, they were only taking 28 teams back then. So you had a whole lot of colleges who didn't make the NCAA tournament, but they participated in the NIT. In fact, we beat Alabama to get to the finals. I think Villanova was in that tournament. Illinois State. There were a lot of good teams in NIT back then. And to be playing in Madison Square Garden on a Sunday national TV, and not to close the deal, I remember it so vividly. We were down 1 point, and our starting point guard, Ken Ciola, had fouled out, and we put in our freshman point guard to replace him. And I think he got caught up in the moment because we went down on a fast break. The second leading scorer on the team, who is left-handed, Cecil Rose, was on the left side of the floor. I'm right-handed. I'm on the right side of the floor. I had scored 38 points already. And we're talking about it's like 40-some seconds left in the game. We have a 3-on-1 fast break. He didn't have to pass it to me. Pass it to the guy on the left side. It's 3-on-1. He got caught up in the moment as a freshman. He pulls up from the top of the key. He misses. They get the rebound. We got to foul him. We end up losing by 3. Unbelievable.
And Otis, I've heard you share 2 stories now: the state championship and the team losing in the last seconds on a special situation play. I now hear you talk about decision making in a special situation, in the NIT Finals, which was the biggest tournament at that time. So your knowledge of the game is just top notch. I love how you share your knowledge with youth. I've seen videos of you at your son's basketball camps sharing knowledge, and you talk about the importance of education. You talk about, social media pressures. You talk about, not bullying and all those life lessons. Where does that come from? Is that from your father, who was a minister, or the upbringing from your mother when your father passed away so young?
Yeah, my dad passed when I was 8 years old. So really never really knew him that well. He worked all the time. He pastored. He was a minister of 2 churches, and he also had a regular job. So he worked all the time. And but my mom instilled in us, you're talking, we didn't integrate the schools until I was in like the 8th or 9th grade. So like 1970 in Winter Haven. But my mom instilled in us to be kind to everyone, regardless of their race. She raised us to respect our elders. I can remember white teammates or white friends would come to our home in high school when it wasn't popular, coming into the Black neighborhood. And so that's the way we were raised, to treat each other with kindness, When you came into our home, you were like family. To this day, I mean, my mom turned 100. She lived to be 100. And when
Wow.
she turned 100, we had a big birthday party for her. And Sheriff Grady Judge, who is the Polk County Sheriff in Florida, he's big time, he's white. He came to her birthday party. He came to her memorial service. We had a lot of white friends at the house for her 100th birthday. So that's the way we were raised, to be kind and care for people, all mankind, regardless of their race or nationality or sex caste, that's how we were raised. And that was instilled in me. And to this day, you know.
Yeah. And that was not popular in those times. And I also saw too, you were number 10 of 12 children, and your mom only made like $40 a week. Did that closeness and those family bonds, did that strengthen you through trials and tribulations throughout your early adulthood?
Well, absolutely, because we were poor, but we didn't know it. I mean, we never went without food. We have a close-knit family now. It's 10 of us still living. My oldest sister, she was like a second mom to us. My oldest brother, he took on the fatherly leadership after my dad passed. And so we were always a close family. And to this day, we have family reunions. My mom has over 90 grandkids. And so we were raised to care for each other and have that bond as a family to this day. So, yeah.
I love hearing that because I feel like family bonds are so important, and to look out for each other and to take care of each other. And I also heard one time that you had mentioned that it was important to your mother and she stressed education. And that's part of the reason why, you wanted to finish out your career at Houston and, get that degree.
Yeah, even though she didn't have the opportunity to go to college, neither did my father. He stressed the importance of getting an education. And out of our 12 siblings, 11 of us all went to college. The majority of us have college degrees. The 12th one didn't go because she was physically challenged, so she wasn't able to go to college. So my mom always stressed education. I mean, I have to tell you, we brought home bad grades. We got a whipping for it. I mean, she just didn't tolerate it. And my siblings have gone on to do some amazing things in the professional lives. And so, yeah, education was always important in our household.
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing that. And then you also stress that to the youth at the basketball camps and clinics and the messages that you share with the youth.
Well, because the majority of them think that they're going to become professional basketball players, the boys and the girls. And you got a better chance of hitting the lottery than becoming a NBA or WNBA player.
That's right.
You just have to tell them the truth. So you have to have something to fall back on. You even if you don't go to college, you can and learn a different trade or something. But it's important when you are in school, to try to learn and because it's going to help you once you get out of school. That's what an education is all about. It's not just book smart. You know, it's more than just book smart and education. Going to school teaches you diversity, communication, all of those things you learn when you are in a public school. It learns how to get along with people who don't look like you, which our culture in this world seem to be having a hard time with right now. But yep.
I agree with everything that you're saying. And I love that that's the core values of who you are and the things that you stand for. That's why I feel so honored and privileged, not just to have the four-time, NBA All-Star with us, but just a man with great character who gives back to the community and who cares about the youth and wants to see, society become a better and more productive place.
Well, the majority of the kids, we have our camps for the underserved kids. They are from, some of them are from no income homes. The majority of them are from very poor income homes. 99% of them are Title I kids, which means they're on free lunch at school. And they live in some terrible, terrible circumstances. You know, their homes, um, it's just a lot of them living in some hard situations. And a lot of times we think these kids are bad, or, you know, a lot of times they're stealing because they don't have any food. They're hungry.
Yeah.
They're getting in fights and stuff because they're just, some of them are homeless. You'd be surprised how many young kids are actually homeless. And so the situation that these kids are living in, I just want to make it, if I can just help one have a better life, you know, and let them know that, look, we care for you. It's not just a basketball camp. You know, we give them our phone numbers. You know, we help them financially. We try and counsel them. We teach them, you know, CPR. We have people come in and talk to them about financial literacy, health and wellness. So it's not just a basketball camp. We really try to just do a lot for those kids.
Yeah, you're teaching them life lessons. You're showing them life skills. I mean, for the most part, Otis, you know what I hear you saying, because of their environment and their surroundings. You know, for someone to talk financial literacy to them, it has to be so foreign to them because probably no one has taken the time to say, "Hey, this is a debit card. This is how you use a debit card." You know, if you go to use a credit card, there's going to be 15% interest on what you use. So some of those skills are going to be things that they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives. And for you to provide the skills and the skill sets and the knowledge for these young kids, that's gold for them.
Yes, it is. And, you know, we teach them about savings. We partner with some banks sometimes, and they will, if the kids open up a bank account, the bank will put in the first 10 or $20 for the kids. And
Wow.
so that's a huge thing. We try to teach them how to, you know, write a check. Some of these kids have never seen a checkbook, you know, but, you know, they're in high school, eventually going to college, you know, they need to know about a checkbook. And like you mentioned, credit cards and having good credit and the importance of keeping good credit. You know, a lot of times you can't even buy a car or a home, regardless of how much money you have nowadays, you know, without good credit. In fact, when these people interview you for a job, one of the things they do is actually check your credit. So, you know, it helps to have good credit these days.
That's right. That's right. It's so true. I mean, these are facts and realities, but there's so many people who are making legislative decisions who don't know what those environments look like, and so they have no awareness. And so the to have the ability to advocate and bring awareness to those underserved and underprivileged communities is something that's very, very powerful. And it's gonna, you know, it's gonna come back tenfold for you to be able to give those kids those skills and that knowledge. I'm a huge fan.
And one of the great things is to have kids who have gone through our program um, go on to college, finish college, and come back and speak to the campus to let them know, look, I made it out. I have my college degree. I have a great job, and you can do it too, you know. So that's pretty neat. Yeah.
God bless you for that, Otis. And again, yeah, I mean, there are NBA All Stars, but you to be an All Star in life, like what you're doing, and that torch that you're carrying, needs to be commended because there's not enough clicks in stories like that, so it doesn't get shown or talked about or reported enough. And so I'm giving you your flowers right here on the Coach Scott Field Show because I have so much respect and admiration for the jobs that you're doing in the communities with those kids.
Well, I appreciate that, but I can assure you we're not doing it for accolades.
That's right.
That's why I don't, a lot of people don't know what we're doing, but
Yeah,
the kids know and the
that's
communities know. And that makes a difference for me, so.
that's right. Love that. Kind of want to talk about too. I mean, my generation and basketball fans, we know, but this young generation that has grown up on technology, if they didn't have YouTube, they wouldn't know. I mean, you were the second overall draft pick, and a city that's near and dear to your heart, Kansas City, the Kings drafted you. What was that transition like, going from a Winter Haven to a Houston, Texas, for a little bit of a culture change there, and then to be in a Kansas City where now you are a professional basketball player, and now you're learning the business of basketball. How was that an eye opener to you, and how did that also help you with your development and getting prepared for post career? Because 12 seasons in the NBA is a great career.
Well, first of all, coming from Winter Haven, and it is a very, very small town, the advantage you have when you go to college, even though you are stepping up in regards to competition, you're really not experiencing the city as a whole your very first few years. You're basically locked in on campus, and you're also just traveling and hanging out with the team. So you going to school, either traveling for a game or you on campus. And a campus like the University of Houston to this day is, I would say, is probably the most diverse university in the nation. Always has been. When I went there in 1973, I had Hispanic friends. There were Asians, people from Australia, Africa. I mean, you name it. Houston was a melting pot. I'm talking about the campus. And I go on campus now, and the same thing exists. It is so diverse. So that was great for me because that was the way I raised. That's why it was easy for me to have a Italian guy for a roommate. It was no problem. But so I never really experienced the Houston, the city of Houston, really until I got out of college because we were always on campus. There was so much to do. We would go to a few parties off of campus, but they were like fraternity parties. And so the University of Houston and Guy Lewis, Guy was a big family man. Yeah. And it really taught me the value of a team being like family. When you have players who really care, you play hard for each other, you pull for each other, you are there for each other on and off the court. It makes a difference, and you can see the difference on the court. Right. And so my experience at Houston prepared me also for Kansas City because I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but my first 2 years at the University of Houston, the Houston Rockets played in our gym. Yeah. Because the summit where they eventually would play was not built. Right. So we got to go to as many games as we wanted to, go back in the locker room, meet the pros, meet the players. I actually had the opportunity of practicing against Ed Ratliff and Calvin Murphy and Rudy White. Those guys would be on campus, and I actually got to play against them. That's when the thought of me thinking I might be able to play pro ball crossed my mind because I was kind of holding my own against those guys. I was like, man. So even then, I was learning how to be a professional, watching those guys come on campus, practice, play in our gym. But even still, when I went to Kansas City, I was like 21 years old when I left school because I was 17 when I went to college. And so my first year as a rookie, it was hard, to travel, learning how to be a professional, taking care of yourself. And it took a while. Lucius Allen, who's a good friend, he took me under his wing and he really helped me and showed me the ropes and helped me a lot. But it was tough, not the competition. Of course, the competition was tougher, but just learning how to be a pro, taking care of your body, getting you rest, not just partying and staying out. All of that is part of being a professional, working hard, lifting weights, training, which I always have done, but it's a different level when you go pro, especially during the era that I played in. So Lucius Allen helped me become a better pro, so he was
I'm
a huge
glad
help.
I'm glad to hear you mention Lucius because I was going to ask, was there a specific player who took you under the wing and told you how to take care of your body and ice the joints and, rest and recovery? Because there's a big difference. Let's be honest. A 30-game schedule in college compared to an 82-game regular season in the NBA, what a change. And then to be able to, at that time, you didn't have private planes, you had commercial flights, or you were on buses to get to the next city to play, the next night. And that's a huge adjustment. I mean, mentally, physically, spiritually. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. And at 21 years old, you're so young. So to have a mentor like a Lucius, say, hey, young man, this is how you do it. I mean, that's priceless.
It is. And, the travel was tough. Sometimes we would play 7 games in 12 days. We would play in Milwaukee and have to get up at 5:30 in the morning and catch a 6 o'clock bus, fly to Kansas City, get in town, and then play that night. You never had to do that in college. You never played back-to-back games in college. So it was tough. It was a learning experience. Even though I had a pretty good rookie year, after you go through it, the first year, the second year is a lot easier.
Right.
Excuse me. Same thing with college, Joe. I
Yep.
mean, your freshman year is a learning experience, and after your freshman year, you feel like it's easier now. It's gravy.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that. I want to expand because the rules of the game was so much more physical when you just came into the NBA. I mean, bumping the cutter and, hitting a guy hard in the paint and, with your penetration and your scoring ability. I mean, that's a lot of abuse on the body. And talk about how important it was for rest and recovery to take care of your body so that way, because there was no load management at that time. I mean, you played because we were competing because we wanted to win. So talk about that a little bit, Otis.
Scott, it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned that because I laugh now when I listen to people and the pundits and they say it is more physical now than when we played. And I'm like, man, are you kidding me? You can't even touch a guy now. And I played my first 2 or 3 years, hand checking was allowed. In other words, the guard, when you put in the ball, even on the floor, the guy could still have his hands on you and kind of guide you one way or the other. To your point, when you went through the lane, we were instructed, you got to bump them when they come through the lane.
Yep.
You had to hit them. Back picks were prevalent. I mean, Wes Unseld would back pick you so hard, you would see stars. You don't see guys get back picked now, blindsided. It was legal. And so, like you say, the big guys banging underneath, they were pushing and shoving and banging. It was hard. It was very, very physical. I mean, Kevin McHale clothesline, one of the Celtics clothesline one of the Lakers in the playoffs.
Kurt
It
Rambis.
wasn't even a flagrant foul. It was just a hard foul. The bench is cleared, exactly.
Yep.
The bench is cleared and no one got thrown out. If a guy did that today, he would be suspended for a month.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the whole year.
Yeah.
So it was so much more physical. And to your point about recovery, we didn't have the technology back then. These guys now, and I'm not complaining, I'm not begrudging, I'm just stating the facts.
Yep.
We didn't have nutritionists. We didn't have massage therapists. We didn't have a strength coach. We didn't have a stretch coach. We didn't have a chef. We didn't have private planes. The technology that these kids have now, the cold tub, the jacuzzi and all of that they have at these different venues, the practice basketball court, we didn't have any of that. And yet we, like to your point, we didn't get time off. Cotton Fitzsimmons used to tell Phil Ford and I during the playoffs, he said, you all can rest in the summertime. He tried to play us the entire game. I mean, and we were in shape. We didn't mind. I wanted to be on the floor for the whole game. I hated to come out the game. These guys now hit 3 or 4 shots in a row and they're raising their hand to come out the game. I'm like, you're hot. You're on fire. Why you want to come out of the game? But
Otis, that's so
the
true.
training camp, people don't talk about. Yeah, but people don't talk about training camp. We used to go 2 days for 14 days, 3 hours in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. I mean, in the evening, full contact. Now they can only have 1 day of contact in the NBA. The one session is contact. The other session is shooting and going through plays and dummy offense. And so it's a lot different now. These guys can play forever, man, because they just have everything, and it's so much easier to take care of your body. Back then, we didn't even know the proper way to lift weights. We didn't have a strength coach. We were lifting on our own, before training camp. And we didn't lift during the season, which would have been a huge advantage. Like we did in college, we lifted during the season. But when I was in Kansas City, guys were not lifting weights. Phil Ford never lifted a weight in his life in Kansas City. Never.
Yep. Great stories there, Otis, because again, you're representing facts of that generation and that era, and the physicality of the game. Like you said, it was not uncommon to have guys come out, with slits and stitches, and you just get stitched up and run back on the floor and hope that the stitches held and just be bleeding. That's just the way it was.
Yeah, you don't have the big men like we had back then, with Artis Gilmore and those guys, Moses Malone and Dave Cowens and Bob Lanier and Bill Walton. You just had so many big, strong guys that when you went inside, they let you feel it, and now the big guys are shooting threes. It's they either run a 2-man game or they shoot a 3-pointer in the NBA. It's so much freedom. They have a zone defense, and it's like playing pickup ball. You can play forever. I mean, that's why you have so many guys, even guys who are not heralded or have a big name. Some nights they'll go out and get 50 or 45 because it's so much easier to score now as it was opposed to when we played back in the day.
Yeah, and I'm going to expand on that because I recently heard Mark Aguirre in a podcast, and he said, "Hey, he goes, no disrespect, but today is just candy ball." And to hear that term, I thought that makes a lot of sense because the games are now being called with the rules to be offensive because it's entertaining product for the fans and for TV. But yet it's such a different style of game where you mentioned, most 4 men and 5 men are face-up shooters to spread the court for space and pace, where in before, 3 out, 2 in, and to have those enforcers who were bumping cutters, it was their job to make sure you were touched when you came through the paint.
I've never seen basketball played to the point where so many layups are given. Like Antetokounmpo, I probably pronounced his name wrong, but he shoots 75% of his points are layups. And I mean, if he was playing back in our day, the coach would put us on the bench. It's like, put him on the floor. Where are the hard fouls? The guys shoot layup after layup, dunk after dunk. No one is putting a body on him.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you shoot that many layups in a game?
Yeah.
I've never seen these teams give up so many layups.
Yeah.
It's like, put up. But I guess you can't touch him, so it's so much easier now. And LeBron is a great player, though. Yep. I want to make this point. LeBron is a great player. He could have played in any era, but that's why LeBron can play 20 years, because he can get to the paint, I mean, with ease, because no one to stop him.
No one to grab you around the throat and pull you down when you're when you elevate to get to the basket.
No resistance, man. He probably can play 5 more years, man.
Yep. I agree, especially with the resources and the technology that they have for recovery that we didn't have, 2 decades ago, or even 3, 4 decades ago. So yeah, the resources are there. The rules have changed. It's an entertaining product for the fans. But what I'm surprised at, you know, when somebody goes up and gets a rebound and dribbles 94 feet and no one even impedes his path, and then the length of Giannis with that Euro step to get to the basket and dunk. I mean, yeah, that's why he's scoring the way that he does with his length, but it's because of the rules. But nobody stops ball in defensive transition, and it's a wide open path to the basket.
And also now they're giving these guys an extra step, like they come to a jump stop and then they're allowed to jump to the left or jump back, and they don't call it traveling.
Yep.
That is traveling. Once you come to a stop with that ball, you can't move your feet anymore, but they allow him to hop away. I mean, it's traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't score in today's NBA, something is wrong with you.
So that's a great point. I mean, it's just like 4 or 5 years ago with James Harden with his step back. It was a step and then a hop and a step back to create the space to get that 3-pointer, which, and today also, not to sound like old heads to get off my lawn, but the way that they don't call a carry, with the basketball. So many guys have that heezy or that little hesitation step, but they're carrying the ball to gain that half
They're
step
carrying the
advantage
ball.
every time. Every time.
Yeah, they carry the ball, and they even give them an extra step when they go to the basket. It's
Yep.
supposed to be 2 steps, now they're giving them 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. See, I love talking basketball with people who get it, and there's nobody else who gets it the way that you get it because you were in the trenches for 12 years. Just great stories. Ladies and gentlemen, we're thrilled to have Otis Birdsong here with us, NBA All-Star 4 times, and we're sharing stories. Want to talk now, we talked a little bit about your Kansas City times, and then of course you went on and was a free agent, played with New Jersey, and then finished with Boston. But talk about some of the players that you competed against, and you being a competitive person and scorer, who did you mark your calendar for to be like, okay, I got to be ready tonight. I got to pick it up another level because the guard play in your era was also so good.
Well, Scott, if that's the case, I had my calendar marked every day of the month. Because to your point, the caliber of guys, especially playing a 2 position, I mean, you start with Michael Jordan and then George Gervin and David Thompson and Paul Westphal and Andrew Toney. I mean, the list just went on, especially from that 2 position, World Be Free. But out of all of those guys, the toughest cover for me was Pete Maravich, because
Pistol.
Pete was like 6'6". His range was like 1 step over half court. He dribbled. He was the best ball handler that I ever seen or played against. And he was just phenomenal. And, people talk about scoring. Pete averaged 44 points a game for his college career without the 3-point line when all of the defenses were set to stop him.
Yeah.
And that's just I just don't know how you can do that. My senior year in college, I averaged 30 points a game. But to average 14 more points a game, I don't know how I would have been able to do that. I mean, 44 points a game means you're getting 50 every night.
Yep.
But I had the opportunity also to play with some great players like Phil Ford, Scott Wedman, Sam Lacey, Reggie King. And in New Jersey, of course, the incomparable Michael Ray Richardson, who was a great, great player.
Sugar Ray.
Buck Williams, my great friend Darryl Dawkins, Albert King. So we had some talented teams in New Jersey. But
Yes.
night in and night out in the NBA, especially, actually from every position, from the 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, back when I played, it was tough every night, man. You had to bring it every night.
Well, I appreciate the
Every night.
fact that you mentioned a
I
name
mean,
that
you think about a guy.
go ahead.
Who was that?
I was going to say, I'm glad
No,
you
I was going to
mentioned.
mention. They don't talk about his basketball prowess a lot. And I was going to mention Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge was a heck of a player. He
Yeah,
wasn't an easy cover. You know,
yeah,
he was tough.
yeah. And I appreciate that you mentioned Andrew Toney. I don't think Andrew Toney gets enough credit for how great of a player he was and how he used that big body of his. It's like, yeah, Dr. J was so strong and so dominant and high flying, but Andrew Toney, man, with that big body, he was a bruiser who could also score.
But now Andrew Toney was a two guard.
Yep.
So and he could really shoot the ball. They used to call him the Celtic killer because he used to just wear Boston out, you know, especially in the playoffs. But unfortunately for Andrew, he had some feet issues. He had bad feet, and it kind of ended his career because if I'm sure you know this, out of the five starters, Andrew, Cheeks, Doc, Moses, and Bobby Jones, four of them in the Hall of Fame. You know, so Andrew's career was cut short because of his feet.
Yeah.
But that was a heck of a team. But every night, Scott, on every team, they were loaded. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
back then when you made the All-Star team, you made the All-Star team. You know, now it's like these guys making I don't know what it is. Back then when you made an All-Star team with the competition that you had to go against and compete against to be on the All-Star team, it was a great honor.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you can look at it. Go back and look. I'm gonna tell you, you probably haven't researched this. You hear great names like Earl Monroe. You think, oh, Earl Monroe probably made 10 All-Star teams. He made 4. Bobby Dandridge, oh, I'm sure he made 10. He's in the Hall of Fame. He made 4. So you look at it, go back and look at all of those great players. Most of them made 3 or 4 All-Star teams because the competition was so great. There were no 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 time All-Stars back then. Not them old heads. The majority of them made a few All-Star teams because the competition was so great, man. Paul Westphal, I think he made 5. You know, it was tough, man.
yeah, I am so glad. Matter of fact, I'm getting chills hearing you share that because that was that era, and I can't imagine how proud you had to be named an all-star, walk into that locker room and look around and see the great names around you, and you earned it, you deserved it, and again, to have you on this show to share these stories. I mean, what was that like to walk in that locker room the first time that you made the All Stars and you looked around and tell some of the names that were sitting around you with those All Star selections?
Oh man, my first All-Star. I remember I was in the West. Pete Maravich actually made it. He was Pete Maravich and Kareem and Bob Lanier and David Thompson and George Gervin, Paul
Ooh.
Westball, Dennis Johnson, Walter Davis, Gus Williams. I mean, you know, greater players Gus was. Gus only made 2
Yeah,
All-Star teams. I mean, man, it was hard to make it back then. I mean, I'm telling you, when you made it back then, it was amazing, man.
that's right. I, I
Bob McAdoo was on the team back then. Yeah,
oh
Marques Johnson.
oh
Yeah,
Marques Johnson,
yeah,
the Bucks. That's right. And then to talk
yeah.
about you, let's talk about Coach Lenny Wilkens. I think you got to play with him at least twice, or was in the All Star game with Coach Lenny Wilkens twice. Then you went to his golf tournaments, and then done some great things with his foundations. But talk about the influence of a Lenny Wilkens being an African American coach to have the success that he had.
Yeah, Lenny was a phenomenal player, first of all. And when I played for him in 2 All-Star games, I was amazed at how respected he was. He was such a quiet man, gentle, very knowledgeable of the game. Tough, though. He was very tough. He was a tough player when he played. And he had some great teams in Seattle. But it was, he was, I think I was more, especially my first one, Scott, I was so excited to be there, man. Making the first one. I was like a kid in a candy store at a carnival. I just was trying to just soak it all in, man, and just enjoy every minute of it. And I had so much fun playing that game. And but Lenny is a true icon. That word, that title is used loosely, like greatness, but he's a true basketball icon. He was a great, great player. He was a great, great coach. And it was an honor to play for him, and had a great time at his golf tournament, first class all the way. I mean, the black tie event, the banquet, the comedians, the money he raised for the cause. I mean, he's a staple in Seattle. He's beloved there, and he's a great, great man.
I love that. I've been blessed in my coaching career that, I got to be around Hall of Fame, Jerry Sloan. And I got to be, good friends with many of these coaches. And I spent a few years with the Golden State Warriors, been a head coach in FIBA for many years around the globe. But talk about the impact and influence that Cotton Fitzsimmons had on you.
Man, Cotton was like a father to us all. And he would have us over to his home for dinners. We would go to the movies together, talking about creating a family atmosphere. I only played in Kansas City 4 years, but my fondest memories of being in the NBA are in Kansas City. Um, Cotton was such a great coach, leader, offensive wizard. He made it fun. Every day in practice was fun. He made the games fun. We were loose when he got on the bus, before the game and after the game. I'm still friends with his wife, Joanne, to this day. We stay in touch with each other. She lives in Phoenix. Excuse me. But I love Cotton Fitzsimmons, one of my favorite coaches of all time. Great, great coach, great, great man.
Then when you went to New Jersey, if I remember correctly, my mind slips a little bit, but did you also get to play with Coach Larry Brown as well?
Yeah. Larry is a great coach. I'm not going to be on this podcast and lie to you and tell you that Larry was one of my favorite coaches because he really was. Larry, I think Larry was better suited to coach younger players as opposed to veterans. He was a great coach. He left us in the middle of the year, my second year or first year there. And so Stan Albeck was actually my favorite coach when I played for New Jersey. And we had some great, great years with Stan. In fact, Mr. Joe Tarp, who used to own the Nets when I played there, Mike Ray and I, to this day, we do a basketball camp in Paterson, New Jersey for his foundation. He's since passed on, but he said one of the greatest mistakes he ever made was firing Stan Albeck. We had some great years with Stan. We upset the defending champion, Philadelphia 76ers, in a 5-game series in 1984. Still, to this day, one of the greatest upsets in NBA history in the playoffs. But I enjoyed playing for Stan Albeck more than I did Larry Brown. That's not to discount Larry's achievements and how great a coach he is. I just had more fun playing for Stan Albeck.
I appreciate that honesty. I'm going to throw out another name to you. I had marketed that, you were going to be a guest on the show today, and somebody put on a comment. They said, ask you about Greg Jones. I believe he might have been best man at the wedding.
Greg Jones? You sure it was Greg Jones?
I think that was the name that was put down.
The best man at whose wedding?
At your wedding?
No,
Okay, so he must have been
no.
mistaken.
My brother.
Oh, we froze up
No,
there.
no, not Greg Jones' wedding.
Okay,
And
okay. My source
yeah,
was wrong, so
yeah,
I got
Greg
to go
Jones.
check my source.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, but
no, I don't remember Greg Jones.
talk about your, because we've got 3 or 4 minutes here. Talk about your relationship with your college roommate, which was Jim, your Italian friend that you talked about. Talk about that relationship.
Well, we talk every day, and
Wow.
he's the biggest University of Houston fan in the world. Very good friends with Jim Nance and Fred Couples, and he's just a cougar. I mean, he's that's his life. I mean, I go to his home in Allen Park, Michigan, and it's a museum to the University of Houston.
Wow.
Everything is University of Houston, and we have a great relationship. We're brothers, and we're joined by that university. And he's a great guy. He worked hard. He's the executive director of a company in Allen Park, Michigan. He's been there over 30 years,
Wow.
helping to bring businesses and jobs to the city of Allen Park. And so he's a nice guy. He's a real nice guy.
Love hearing that. 'Cause I believe that, basketball puts us in contact and we build relationships with amazing people. And it's all about those relationships. Just in your last comments here, Otis, because it's been a pleasure having you. Any parting words or words and wisdom that you can share with the viewers of the Coach Scott Field Show? What advice would you give, a young man out there right now just trying to make it?
Well, Scott, you have to put in the work, and that's why LeBron and Kobe and those guys last so long. You just have to work hard and work on your weaknesses, and you got to get in the gym, got to get in the weight room, got to, have a proper diet, all of that. You got to take care of your body because that's the tool that makes you the money. You got to take care of your body. But in today's society that we live in, it's just tough right now. None of us decided what family we would be born into. So to discriminate against someone because of the way they look or what they have but don't have is just ridiculous. It's not hard to be kind and treat people right and nice. So my advice to just be thankful.
Amen, Amen,
Just be
brother.
thankful.
I love that. And another name that came up on the thread, Mr. Ed Corporal. He's a coach, and he said you guys are like brothers. So I wanted to make sure I shouted out his name to you here because I'm sure he'll be watching this.
Now you got the right name there. He is my little brother, and in fact we spoke yesterday.
There you go. Love that. Love that. Well, Otis, thank you so much for sharing your time with our viewers today and sharing the knowledge and wisdom and expertise, but yet just sharing a part of your character with each of us. And I can't thank you enough for your time and just your kind words. And I'm sure that people out there who have listened to the stories are going to be uplifted. And that's what this show is all about, my friend. So God bless you for that. And thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me, man.
I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, that is Otis Birdsong, just an amazing man and an amazing character who truly cares about people and uplifts people and provides tools for life. And I can't thank him enough for being a guest here on the Coach Scott Field Show. Stay blessed, continue to live, love, and serve. And we hope to see you again soon for another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. God bless you.